Hi, I'm Mike Bloom. I just want to talk for a few minutes about some criticisms that people have made about, for example, the book of Revelation being fulfilled in the first century by saying that, well, when it says these things were at hand and will shortly come to pass in Revelation 1, verses 1 and 3, that it's explained by Peter that a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. So that's not what Peter is saying. Peter is not saying that when you see at hand and you see shortly, when God's speaking from his perspective, it could be thousands of years. Well, let's go to 2 Peter chapter 3 and show what Peter is actually saying according to the context. He talked about in verse 3 that there would come in the last days scoffers who were after their own lusts, and they would make a criticism and say, "Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation." So their reasoning and grounds for saying that the prophecies about Christ's coming aren't going to come to pass is that they've been for such a long time prophesied, they've been foretold. And for example, somebody saying that it's since our fathers fell asleep, so let's say thousands of years. And here Peter said in verse 8, "Don't be ignorant of this one thing." And here's the key verse: that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Now they say that that's grounds right there for saying that when you read God say something about shortly come to pass or at hand, it could be thousands of years. That's not what Peter's saying. If they're claiming that the amount of time that transpired between the prophecy and the time when it's not even fulfilled yet is as 1,000 years and it can't come to pass on those grounds, well, Peter's saying it's no more difficult for God to prophesy something and it come to pass 1,000 years afterward than it is for him to prophesy something and it come to pass a day later. In other words, amount of time, which is what the whole argument was based on for an inability for a prophecy to come to pass, is something God's not having a difficult time to deal with. It's no more difficult. God's power to bring a prophecy, God being able to speak something and look so far ahead in the future that it may be 1,000 years, is just as easy for him to look ahead in the future from the moment it was prophesied a day for it to come to pass. That's what it's saying. Look at it again. They're talking about the claim that it's too long a time that has transpired between the prophecy of his coming until now. And of course, that was in Peter's day 2,000 years ago. And so Peter's saying, no, that whole issue of difficulty in bringing a prophecy to come to pass over a duration of time that might appear too long for us, it's not difficult with God. For God, one day to bring a prophecy come to pass is just as easy as bringing it to come to pass 1,000 years later. So you just see what it's actually saying. Don't let anybody pull that over on you anymore, that at hand and soon is from God's perspective, and that could be thousands of years, because remember what Peter said, one day is as 1,000 years. God bless. I hope that's clarified things for you.